Hello, this is Scott Higgins. This is my DES 105 game project. This is Project XD, a platformer game that I have made. I will begin with gameplay. Now, the player can move the character with the D and A keys to move left and right respectively, or the arrow keys. Spacebar is used to jump, as you can see by my misjump there, and the left mouse click is used to attack. As you can see, the game features enemies with following AI and shooting capabilities, moving platforms, healing point orbs, and the main goal of the game is to get to the top of the tower and retrieve an amethyst gemstone. We are coming to the near end of the level, so this gameplay demo will end shortly. And there's the purple gem, just touch it, and the level is cleared. You won. If you click retry, you'll be taken straight back to the start of the level. If you press escape, which brings up the pause menu, you can resume to go back to gameplay, or press quit and quit out to the menu. Moving on to my scripts, here's the main menu script. Quick and nice and easy. The scene management in Unity, this allows it to load up other scenes. The play button, when it's pressed, it will go to the next index scene, which is the actual game. When the quit button is pressed, it will close the application. The debug log is left in from testing. The follow camera script, key features the public game object player, that just allows the camera to keep track of the player object. Pause no Z makes it so that it will not track the player's Z position, as seen in this line. And interpret velocity is taken from here, the target direction magnitude times 5. Target position normalized will make it so that it returns a magnitude of 1, and lerp makes it so it will move more linearly. The pause menu uses scene management again, checks for pauses, which the pause button is bound to escape. When it is pressed, it will bring up the pause canvas and freeze the game time. Pause has two buttons, resume and quit. When resume is pressed, it will bring back time to the game and get rid of the pause canvas. When quit is pressed, it will load up the previous scene, which being the main menu, and will restore time and get rid of the canvas. Retry is on the game over page, and once the game has been finished, this will reload the current scene, that being called XD, and restore time. Level clear, that ties into quit and retry. Key features will compare the tag of the object the player is touching, so that if it is equal to the gem tag, it will call endgame. Endgame will pull up the cleared canvas and freeze time. Platform movement taken from the lectures. Key differences that I put in: moving up equals true, that's just swapped out from moving right. Move by, I wanted to include this so that each platform can move up by a different amount. And start Y is the starting position. Used here, checking for moving up, which is determined if the transform position Y, that being the platform, is less than or equal to the starting position, it will move up. If not, it will not. Script: when the enemy presses the left mouse button, it will call forth the function punch. On trigger enter is applied to a 2D box collider, which is set to trigger. On the player, this checks that if an object with the tag enemy is within this box, that shall be declared an enemy. If the player if that enemy leaves the box, then it shall be declared null. Punch checks if the enemy is not equal to null, and if so, it will destroy the enemy game object. Health bar. The health bar has it so if the player's health is over 100, it will just round it back down to 100. This is so that you don't have an overabundance of HP. The health bar value is set to my health, which is the player's health, along with the text being set to my health. On collision enter with a game object with the tag enemy, we'll call take damage with the value 5, and on trigger with a game object with the tag slash, we'll also take 5 damage. If however the player makes contact with a game object with the tag heal, it will add 20 to the player's current health and destroy the game object that the player touches. Take damage, the damage value being 5 for the enemy and the slash, it will take 5 off the current health, and if the health reaches 0, it will call the function dead. Dead will pull up the game over canvas and freeze time. The jump script checks for if the game object ground check is touching any object with the ground layer. If it is, it will declare the player as grounded. If the player presses the spacebar and is grounded, it will uncheck is grounded and add rigid body velocity, add force, jump times jump force. Jump being a vector free and jump force being 2.0. Player movement script, it has 3 functions. The move function essentially moves the player by getting the horizontal key inputs, that being A, D and the arrow keys. This is then times by speed in move by, and then is added to the rigid body velocity, only changing the x value. Flip uses this input get axis raw horizontal and sees which ways the player is going. If it is less than 0, it will detect that they're moving left and will flip the player. If it's above 0, it will determine that it's right and make the player flip to the right. And moving is strictly for animation. If there's any velocity, it will set the walking animation, else it will not. Patrol script, quickly looking at some things that are notable. The way it's determining if the player can be attacked. It gets the distance of the player, which gets the transform position of the enemy, and then gets the player position, puts it to a variable, and see if that is less than or equal to the attack distance. If so, it will start a coroutine. The fixed update, this just checks for if the player must turn, if the enemy is patrolling even, it will determine if it must turn, checking the ground check pause if it's making contact with the ground layer. In patrol mode, it has an if statement with a few conditions, being that if it is to must turn, or if the enemy is touching the ground layer, wall layer, or enemy layer in a box collider in front of the enemy's head, it will call flip. Otherwise, it will just keep the velocity with walk speed times time, and nothing changes with the Y. Flip will stop patrolling, transform the local scale, X to -1, they're flipping the sprite, and flipping the walk speed by -1 to make it go the opposite direction, and then going back to patrolling. In the coroutine, it will set can slash to false, so the enemy can no longer start chaining constant attacks. It will then wait for 3 seconds and then will create a game object new slash, which takes a slash game object that has previously been made. It will then give it it will then get the component, give it velocity, which is slash speed times walk speed slash time fixed. It will then set can slash to true and then return out of the coroutine. The project overall, I feel like if this were to be further developed, I would like to have less scripts. I feel like some of them are small enough to where they could be combined into other scripts that have the same or similar nature. I feel like some code could be better executed. The jump code specifically was giving me trouble with how it was being executed here. I would either have a glitch where the character does not jump at all, or the player would have a double jump unintentionally. I feel like looking into better ways of doing this would be a step in the right direction. But for making my first Unity game, I feel like I've done not too bad.